Es ist die Champions League Reaction Show. Borussia Dortmund 3, Barca 1, 2 goals short of what was needed by Dortmund. Our man in Dortmund, Matt Ford. Matt, how's it going? You are in the press room, I think. I do know the ceiling, the sound effective ceiling, I would say.
As proof, I am here.
You are at the Signal Iduna Park Westfalenstadion, BVB Stadium, I guess it's called in for European competition. Hey, so close, but no cigar.
Um, yeah, I think Borussia Dortmund got a lot closer than anyone thought they
Mm,
would do. Have been the Champions League's been no stranger to ridiculous comebacks in recent years, hasn't it? They only seem to have increased since the away goals rule got taken off, and not I still can't quite work out what effect that has on teams, but obviously.
mm.
Barcelona themselves have been on the receiving end of a big comeback at Anfield, and just tonight I've not seen it, but it looked like PSG were actually on the ropes for a little bit with an Aston Villa
It was
comeback.
one goal.
Only one goal in it in the
Yeah.
end. PSG themselves, no strangers to
Mm,
that. Against Barcelona, and then tonight you thought, well, I mean, Barcelona, PSG, Liverpool, teams who perform these huge comebacks.
mm.
Yeah, big names, with better teams than Borussia Dortmund currently are. Borussia Dortmund themselves, big comeback against Malaga back in the day. I thought you thought that wouldn't happen tonight. 4-0. Um, from the first leg, you thought, whatever happens, even if Borussia Dortmund were to just simply come out of the game with a win on the night, 1-0, perhaps, or even just avoid defeat, they can maybe exit the competition with heads held high. But they started fantastically, and even when they went 1-0 after 10 minutes, but after the penalty, that way, there'd already been a series of half chances in the
Hmm.
10 minutes before that. Um, and you thought after that, this is the point where Borussia Dortmund have almost had their fun. They've had Barcelona on the road for 10 minutes. The crowd's obviously really up for it. But then, Barcelona's quality would start to show. But the opposite happened. So between Borussia Dortmund scoring that first goal and half time, I thought the performance got even better, and it got even
Hmm.
better in more important areas. Suddenly, it wasn't just Svensson getting down the left or Adeyemi or Bayer dinking through, creating individual chances or semi-dangerous moments in the final third. Suddenly, it was Pascal Gross and Felix Metscher absolutely dominating midfield
Hmm.
in a really impressive way. Thought it was telling. I made a couple of notes to myself as well, just how much arm waving Frankie de Jong seemed to be doing in the first half. There was a
Yeah.
clear frustration um, on his part that he was getting absolutely nothing in that midfield battle. Um, I don't see enough of Barcelona on a weekly basis to know just how aggressively they play, but at the maybe you can comment a little bit more on it. But I was surprised to
Mm.
see, particularly in the first half, a Hansi Flick team um, pressing so weakly, so meekly.
Yeah.
It's unusual to see Dortmund playing it out from the back as calmly as they did on occasion, progressing the ball through midfield. Not sure if that's down to Valdemar Anton, Nicolas Sula, Ben Spaini, and co having a good night, feeling confident on the ball, or simply not being put under any pressure. Um, Either way, it was a deserved lead. It probably should have been two at half time. I think
Hmm.
Bristol deserved to go 2-0 up straight after half time as well. Um, and the place was absolutely rocking. It probably was too much to hope because you're always running that risk of just one goal and the tie is effectively over. And
Yeah.
and that's what happened. Shit, it's a shame from Ben Baini's point of view that it came from an own goal. It's a very pacey cross. I'm not sure how much control he can have over that clearance. It's come in at a rate of knots. Um,
Yeah.
but even then, when you thought, well, that's it, bubble burst, even then, Borussia Dortmund still came back. And this time it was down to the substitutes, in my opinion, for Duran Gittins and Gio Reyna added yet another dimension to Dortmund's game in the second half.
Hmm.
Um, so did Julian Brandt as well. He's been much criticised in recent weeks, rightly so. Gittins hasn't been the same player since Christmas either. And yet in the second half, they continued to go at to go at Barcelona. And yeah, perhaps on balance, it was never going to be enough. We know this season, this Borussia Dortmund team are showing us that on balance, that they're not good enough. We've been through the reasons why. There's an awful lot of work to do. Um, but tonight was one of those nights in Dortmund where, even though it was ultimately not enough, it was never going to be enough, really. It was one of those nights where you realise that there is something in this club, despite all the pressure they're under and the negative headlines that get written about often from us. But there is something there if they can get the right people in place to make the right decisions.
It did feel at times like something special was in the air. I think if we had looked ahead to this tie and said Dortmund go out 5-3, maybe 5-4 on aggregate, we would have said, okay, yeah, that seems right, and that would have been honorable because Barcelona, in my opinion, is the team to beat in this competition now. But then you look at that second leg, and then especially in the light of what happened in the first leg, where Dortmund completely fell apart, and then the second leg and how great they played, and you just wonder a little bit, what ifs? There's so many what ifs, right? What if Benzema doesn't score that own goal? What if Dortmund just get their act together a little bit better in Barcelona and they lose that game 3-1 rather than 4-0 or, even just 2-0? Because it's 2-0 and this is a result that is always in them in Dortmund. The stadium, I've seen it. I've been there for Champions League nights. I remember one particular night where they were down 2-0 against Inter Milan in the group stage and they won that game 3-2. I'm not quite sure. You might have been there too, Matt.
I did actually see a couple of Dortmund fans here tonight with Malaga
Yeah.
scarves, with those half and half scarves from the Malaga game.
Yeah.
There is certainly a belief that
There
anything
is
is
an
possible.
energy there that can develop, right? And you sort of had the sense that maybe it could just happen. And I think 4-0 was just a bit too much, even though, without the away goals, maybe if that brand goal stands and it's 4-1, then I think all bets are off then. I think the one thing that maybe frustrated me a little bit tonight, and it's so hard to criticize the team for how they played tonight. You can criticize them for the full 180 minutes on aggregate. Yeah, 100%. The first leg, that was criminal. The result
But
was
they absolutely dug their own grave in that.
yeah, they
Respect.
did.
There's no
But
bones about that.
today, I think today it's really hard to criticize the team. But there was tiny little moments where I'm like, if that pass is played a little bit earlier, if that shot is maybe taken a little bit earlier, then it's maybe 2-0 at halftime.
We've been saying that all season,
Yeah,
haven't we?
so
That's
true.
been the case with Karim Adeyemi as long as he's been in Dortmund. To be perfectly honest, it's been the case with Serhou Guirassy this season. Maxi Bayer, I think once
Yeah.
he started hitting form, has been a bit more consistent. But again, tonight
Mm.
there were so many flashes, and then in his first
Brandt.
season, Brad's been frustrating all the way through. Gittins has probably been
Yeah.
overplayed, as we've said. If you can you really expect constant consistency from Svensson on the left at all times?
Yeah.
Maybe not quite yet. But then again, just the Champions League quarter final. I think this is the sort of level where you can realistically and legitimately say, no, you are footballers at the very, very, very top level here, and we do expect that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. And yeah, that's where they fell short. Even if tonight's performance was absolutely laudable, and I've rarely seen a team go out potentially for more than well, likely for even more than a season now. It's going to be a while
Mm-hmm.
before we see Borussia Dortmund back in Champions League, and yet weirdly to go out on such a strange high. The stadium is buzzing tonight. I come here an awful lot, and I go to a lot of stadiums around Germany and Europe. And here's some pretty spectacular atmospheres. This was loud tonight by any measure. It was absolutely deafening. I mean, the yellow wall, the Südtribüne is one thing, but to have people in the posh seats surrounding the press box on their feet for 90 minutes, clapping and screaming non-stop. This was, even for Borussia Dortmund standards, this was extremely
Mm.
loud. I did think at one point I have seen one 4-goal lead turned around at this stadium before. Obviously, it didn't
Mhm.
go in Borussia Dortmund's favour. It
Yeah.
went very much in Schalke's favour. But that thought occurred to me. This stadium has seen that sort of thing before. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, it will be a while before we see them in the Champions League again. And we have said before that they're a little bit lucky in a way that they have this Club World Cup to compensate for that and give them a
Mhm.
year off. I can't decide whether I think that Dortmund having a year, given all the issues that we know about with the structure of the club and the hierarchy and the transfer policy, and is Kovac the right man, is Sebastian Kehl the right explorer about to long term? Is it good for them to have a year out of this? Or when you see nights like that and performances like that tonight, do you say, no, this club, if it's going to develop, it has to develop at this level in the
Mm.
Champions League against opposition like that? I don't know where I fall on that.